Okay, I'm very excited, guys, to invite you to the Global Construction Tech Podcast. We bring real experts with real insights from real construction projects who shed light on application or the lack of application of technology, of construction technology. So today we'll be hosting Nihar Topkar, and Nihar started working as a project manager in 2004, and since then has worked on some really exciting projects. And today we'll have an opportunity to pick his brain and talk to him about VDC and prefabrication, how that's going to change the industry. Hi, Nihar, how are you?
Excellent. Thank you for this opportunity.
It's the biggest pleasure. So, why don't we start off with just asking, tell me about yourself. Give me a bit of a background. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So I'm Nihar Topkar. I currently work as a pre-construction and design and engineering support for two of our prefabrication companies. One is Digital Building Components, and the other one is SurePods. At Digital Building Components, we make pre-finished exterior building panels and cold-form steel load-bearing structures. And at SurePods, we make prefabricated bathroom pods. And we also are in the skunk works, or we are also trying to introduce new products, one of them being kitchen pods, to be able to prefabricate or have a modular component that just basically goes and sticks into the buildings. I was born and raised in Mumbai, India. I'm a civil engineer by training and education. After I graduated from my alma mater in Mumbai, I worked for a few years for a reputable general contractor in India called Shapurji Palanji. There we did high rises. I was a part of building the tallest structure in Mumbai at the time. This was 15 years ago, so that title's gone now, but it was a very intriguing project, and the ability to connect with technology that was not commonplace in India at the time. I was able to play in that sandbox as I started looking at the horizon and what I wanted to do. I decided to come to the United States to pursue my master's in construction management. Like, project management was my passion. And when I came to the US, I after completing my master's, I started working for DPR Construction, which is another reputable general contractor in the United States, top 10 ENR company. And with DPR, I've had worn multiple hats over the years. I started out as a project engineer, an entry-level position in general contracting in the United States, and went from projects that were started out in healthcare, did a bunch of data center projects, like mega data center projects, did some really cool projects, like building a plane, like aeroplane manufacturing facility, and different hats that I wore were like being a PE to a PM, and then also starting up some of our VDC initiatives at DPR, and going from a VDC engineer all the way to leading VDC for the Southeast region at DPR in the United States. And in that journey, what I like to say is, I look back now at where VDC is today. I feel like I was a part of changing the world for the construction industry, as back in the day, we had to really sell our clients that the value of VDC and why they would have to pay for it and what is the incentive in it. I look back now and I look at projects now, that conversation has gone away. We don't have to sell the value of VDC. That's just commonplace. And that's where I think we change the world, not just DPR as a general contractor, but as an industry. We don't have to talk about it. Every general contractor has a VDC program. VDC engineer is a commonplace role at all contracting and a trade partner firm, like mechanical, electrical contractors. They all have these roles, and that's where I see where I'm today. With being a part of prefab, I want to, in 5 to 10 years, look back and say that, well, I was a part of changing the world where now we don't have to sell prefab. That's how we build.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I also, one thing that I really like about this is, you know, it, being able that being part of that transition for the industry to understand the value of VDC is actually something incredibly hard. I think most people today, if they enter the industry, it's a given fact. But maybe it could be really cool to maybe hear some of those early challenges, some of those more difficult discussions you had to have in order to convince the rest of your team to actually adopt it, or your clients. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, 100%. So looking back, like just being in the VDC shoes, I think it part of that was a little bit of a fad, that VDC was a cool word. So being a company that was in the forefront of technology, we absolutely wanted to jump in with both feet. The differentiator, I think I would say, like the support that we had, that our company leadership was all in, and it wasn't just lip service. Like we were investing in softwares like Revit and Navisworks at the time, where no GC would be spending like hundreds and thousands of dollars on a technology that's so new, but that's who we are, and that really helped stem and put seeds in folks like us that were excited about technology, wanted to play with it, wanted to break it. And that was a great launching pad to be able to be in the right place at the right time, where there is a company that wants to invest in VDC, and there were people like me that like wanted to play with technology, didn't want to build everything traditional. We wanted to challenge the status quo, and that gave us a launching pad. The challenges came where, like, even though a company leadership is all in, we still have to go convince the local leaders in every office that this is the right thing to do, internally and externally. So not just we have to sell it to ourselves internally, that this is an investment we want to make, but also go to our clients in presentations when they start seeing our bids, like, hey, you guys have this role or have this line item for VDC. What is this? Why am I paying for it? What is the value for me? And the biggest challenge at that time was, well, VDC makes your, as GC's, life better, doesn't really help me. You owe me a coordinated building anyways. Like, why am I gonna fork out extra dollars to buy this service when that is like something that's written in plans and specs? And so that was the challenge. And then once we started showing the differentiators that, like, the light tables can only do so much coordination, now we can bring all these models together. We can, like, you have an equipment, like say if it's a hospital and there is a piece of equipment that's going to fly in at a later date, like what size opening we need, like what is the travel path, and we were able to clash detect, like with that equipment rolling virtually through the building, and how it's going to come in and sit, and all its anchor bolts are like 1/4 inch tolerances that they can be off. And those are the things that open the eyes for like the bigger clients, like healthcare data center, which is, for them, the quality or the tolerances were very low, and they wanted to buy the latest and greatest equipment at the last possible moment. And for them, it was a light bulb, and that they helped us basically make this commonplace to begin with. So with the GCs that were in the forefront, that were selling this to the clients that were in the forefront, they really started opening these doors. And over time, it just gathered its own momentum, that it's not a piece of conversation anymore. It is just something, this is the way we build now.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And you guys, so first of all, just the fact that you guys had that right mindset towards technology, right, was something that was, and I mean, it's a win-win for the company and for you, that you're the type of personality who isn't afraid, of using a new technology. There's so many times that I'm aware of. I talk to many construction companies as part of my work, in which we specialize in construction technology, and all we do is we reach out to companies and we ask them about their needs, what they're using. I hear so many situations where a technology's been integrated to a project, but the project manager didn't want to use it. It's just, and it's destroyed. And now there's a use case against the product. Now, what are you going to do with that? To convince a company after that kind of, that kind of a lashback, it's not easy to do at all. So
Yeah.
The fact that you're also, aligned with the company vision in producing and leading a change is incredible. Yeah, and the kudos. So that's first of all. And the second thing is also finding the right clients. That's hard because you really brought it up, right? That question, what the heck is that thing on the bill? What's this VDC stuff? I'm not paying for it. And the industry is notoriously known, for not wanting to pay for things. So, when you hear that, I'm sure it's really difficult. But finding the right clients, that it's even more important for them, the healthcare and data centers, and be able to pinpoint them as companies that be willing to recognize the value of clash detection, the value of being able to really put in a much higher quality product. That's also, that's also incredible. Yeah.
And Elio, it wasn't all rosy that hey, we changed the world. Like we had setbacks too. So because we model everything, and depending on who models and if they know how to build, we made errors in modeling in our infancy that we didn't think of things that a seasoned builder would when they were coordinating in the field. So there was that gap. Like we had these all tech guys that were modeling because they were the only ones that could model, and we over time had to bridge the gap and to bring the field leaders into the modeling effort to take a look at what we had done, to say that hey, you cannot like do those 90s or you cannot do those sweeps to make your model work, because like you're gonna fail your inspections, or you're gonna fail the constructability, or you're gonna reduce the efficiency of HVAC system. Like that input was so much valuable. So from going and once we made a mistake and that went into production, that was a big setback, because now everybody would look at it and say that, well, VDC doesn't work. And that was an easy button.
We told you so.
Yeah,
we told you so. Doesn't work, Yeah. And and you keep on getting, because every small mistake gives you a big setback, and inching it in is so difficult. It is. It's a very hard process. But since you already were speaking about this, unbelievably so. But there's so many companies still today that are either partially implementing, the benefits of VDC, or even might not even be doing anything about it. And just as someone who's already seen this, what's your first of all word of advice and word of inspiration to these guys?
I think in any new technology or anywhere you go, you have to have certain leap of faith that you have to take. You're not gonna get a white paper that like always clearly tells you that hey, here are the benefits and here is how it applies to you. And I understand that every company has their own financial construct and things they can limit in, but now the world has opened up. Now you can make it a job cost, and owners will pay for it. You can also, instead of having a full VDC department in-house, there are companies that professionally do this. So you can at least initially invest at a project level. You can invest in these third-party services that can get you what you need, get your feet wet, and as you start seeing the value, as your people start seeing the value, you can then make a transition to make that ethos of your company.
Definitely. I think that it's a big first of all, it's a big leap of faith, and a lot of times I think one of the challenges, I definitely think that outsourcing is usually, it could be a good challenge on a project basis, and but a lot of the challenges is when a company doesn't even have that early infrastructure of coping with even with the outsourcing company. People, I think that the key of it is a lot of times understanding it's not a smooth, seamless transition. It actually requires, like you said, investment. And you said that you're working, you guys were investing in it. I think, but today, like maybe 10 years later, where like you're seeing the benefits of it, right? How long, by the way, do you think it took for the company and the clients to just figure it out? Was it one project, or did it take 2 or 3 projects for them to understand the scope of the benefit of using VDC?
I want to say some companies that were believers, that like setbacks were not an issue for them. Like they were saying like, all right, this is the part of the process. We learn, we take our lessons, and we take it to the next project. But with some clients, they were either burned that they went away from it, so it took them longer till like the whole world around them changed that they came back to it. But I want to say on an average, like it took anywhere between 3 to 5 projects before companies evolved into like, hey, this is a strategy. We're gonna have a department for VDC, and it took long, and that is expected because there are failed attempts, there are failed technologies even in construction, or to draw a parallel, electric cars. They came into being for whatever reason, they went away. But then now they're making a comeback with technology evolving, people's mindsets changing, and I feel like a lot of the answers where we said that, well, this is not for us or it is never going to work, a lot of people are being proved wrong, and for the better of the environment. It is more efficient, and those, like, now nobody has to really sell it. And I did, like, just from that parallel standpoint, that's where VDC is. I feel that you can still remain in a bubble and not believe in VDC as a construction company, but I don't think we have to have 100% adoption ever, or we'll ever get 100% adoption. But it has critical mass that for bigger projects, for established GCs, it's a no-brainer at this point.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And I think it's always a surprise how long something takes to be adopted and to see the value out of it. Like I was seeing a bunch of times. A lot of times it's a big investment, and it takes a year, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes for construction companies to actually say, you know what, it makes sense to streamline this. You know, and people, everyone wants to see immediate results. You know, that's the tendency, especially people who are not used to voodoo technology, you know, getting involved in their day by day in the operation. You know, they want, just let them work with the concrete and they're happy. You know, it's don't kill me. You know, so I'm just saying it's it is. I'm thinking now we could transition to another big part of, you know, the things that you do, and we could maybe talk a bit about the pods and about some of the exciting projects you're involved in today.
Yeah. So as a part of my career transition, I was leading VDC in the Southeast, and opportunity presented itself where DPR, our parent company, had invested in a homegrown company called Digital Building Components. At Digital Building Components, we make prefabricated exterior panels, finish. So we have myriad of finishes that we put on, but if you look at any building from the outside, we essentially build that skin in a manufacturing plant and ship it to the side, and then these giant panels get picked up and get stuck on the outside. The value proposition for that product is like you're doing all these panels flat on its back, so it's accessible, it's ergonomic, it's safer as compared to in the field where, again, similar to what I said about pods, it's like traditionally you would like first put all the cold form steel, then you would put all the sheathing, then you would apply all the finishes, and then like there's waste, and there is, like, if you're doing exterior insulated foam, then there is rasping foam that you have to protect the environment from. So there is a lot of these items that basically go away when you manufacture this in the plant, and then we wrap the building in matter of weeks as compared to months in traditional construction. So we are able to bring the building to a quasi dry status, or not have the interiors affected by like rain and wind and temperatures as much once we close it up. And that's a big milestone for all general contractors that are building new buildings or sizable projects. And we are able to achieve that at a much faster pace because it's pre-built. Like all you do is bring all these panels, cover the building up, and you caulk your joints and walk away. On the other side of the business that I support is Sure Pods, which is where we manufacture bathroom pods. And the concept is like again identical, where this is like an inside product. It's a smaller product that fits in a box truck, so it is protected when it ships. But like in traditional construction, if there is a 400 bed hospital, so there are 400 bathrooms, and so you would have to cart tile everywhere. You have to cut every toilet accessory, every fixture within that bathroom to all these places in the building, multiple stories. Whereas what we essentially do is we build all of that on a manufacturing line, so it is controlled, it's safer. We have a better quality control so that we can view these and wrap them up before it's ready to go. These pods are fully inspectable. The analogy we like to draw is pods are like a dishwasher. Like all you have to do is make the waste, water, and electrical connections, and it's fully inspectable from the outside. But when you're done, when you're hooked up, you just stick it into your cabinet, and it just works. And that's where the pods are today. Is like you just make connections from the outside. Everything on the inside is pre-finished.
Okay, yeah, it's super interesting. I think when people, prefabrication of elements of certain utilities is something that I think I've been seeing more and more of, and I also think it's been catching on. Right, I think like we're really seeing trends in the market. It's becoming a lot more widespread used. And there's always been, prefabrication has had some notorious challenges. One of the big ones is logistics and basically making it, as affordable. So maybe we could go down there and you could just kind of share how you guys dealing with it. How challenging is logistics? What might be some of the solutions that could be applied?
Yeah, it's so it is a challenge. So there is no beating around it. Logistics is definitely a challenge. But the value outweighs the proposition to solve these challenges. What I mean by that is, if you look at a building, like if you look at a time lapse of a prefabricated building going up or prefabricated exterior panels going up, you can clearly see a night and day difference in how a time lapse goes for a traditional build, exterior panels versus exterior skin versus exterior panel install. Like it's months of advantage that you can gain. Now, what you have to sacrifice in that is there is some additional cost because not every project is built that way. So there is not enough repetition. There is not enough companies providing these services. So the cost is because of less people with know-how, less people actually doing it, less people consuming it. But just like VDC, I have full faith that this process is also gonna achieve critical mass, where it will be a no-brainer at the same and a common place in construction. So from a logistics standpoint, we do have to think about how we build or what sizes we build our products based on what is the biggest truck that's available that can safely ship it. And this was a huge learning curve for me because I was never a part of logistics. I was always building construction. So when I saw material, it was on a truck at my doorstep. It was always like calling people and saying like, where is it? When is it gonna show up? But we were never bothered by, or we were never like really looking at what truck's gonna show up on, or what is the size of the unit. Whereas with like being a part of a prefabrication company, all those things have to be considered when you're designing. On day one, when you're designing a panel, the width of the panel, the height of the panel, those things have to be considered based on what truck it's going to go on, and that has serious cost implications. So it doesn't mean you cannot build a bigger panel than the truck can hold. You can, but it is astronomically expensive because now you have to have police escorts carting that truck over, and it sometimes goes from East Coast to West Coast based on where our project is, and those costs sometimes are prohibitive, where it makes sense to make a smaller panel or break it up into pieces where the shipping cost doesn't really it doesn't become cost prohibitive to do the project itself.
Yeah, that's I think you've described some of these challenges really as on the head. There's a good quote, we're always trying to balance between quality, time, and money, right? But you can only choose two things. You can't get them all. If you want the quality and the time, you want a short time, it's going to cost you more. You want things very quickly. It'll be expensive, and so today one of the big challenges is really for prefab or prefabrication is the lack of infrastructure, right? When you have exactly you're saying, you have more suppliers that are spread out, the cost of logistics go down, and it becomes a lot more, the price becomes a lot more palatable and more reasonable, even competitive, right?
Yeah,
To the local, because
100%.
yeah, and so what would you say, we did touch upon some of like those big benefits, like the quality and like the safety that's involved in it. You definitely, I know that we had a brief conversation before this, like where do you see prefabrication ending up? Like how do you see this in terms of the future of the industry? What's going to be prefabricated? Everything? To what extent? Like where do you, I'd love to hear your insights.
So, just being a proponent of prefabrication, I want to just double down and say everything. I think it is possible. What this industry needs, or where like we are looking at, is materials. So it has been very eye-opening that our every project, like even if we have a project with the same architect and the same client, and you do another building, unless they have a program where they want a prefab, materials change significantly. It changes sometimes due to geographies, local codes, and sometimes it changes because of personal preferences. Because there are some people that want to leave a mark on a building that says that, hey, this is a signature building, and we want to do this massive atrium. So there are things that all these components create unique buildings over and over again. And so when we come to the table and when we want to prefabricate a building, when it's not designed for prefab or when it's not the same material, we have to basically engineer the product to test for compatibility. And we have to go back and do some basic testing before we can even go and sell or tell the client that, yes, we can do this building. We have to look at their specs. We have to negotiate with them, like what they can and cannot do. So I think that's the biggest thing I see in the future, that these panels are going to start, or the panels or the bathroom pods are going to be designed for prefabrication, which will help us essentially take the noise out of the compatibility, because everything that is there, it's not tested just for the durability as a pod or as a panel sitting on the building, but it is tested for durability from manufacturing to shipping to storage to picking it up. Because when we introduce prefabrication, we introduce different kinds of stresses on the objects that they were never like really thought through or never really designed for, because they were always going to be built as sticks in the field. And when we prefabricate something that's not really tested for prefabrication, we have a lot of failures, we have a lot of issues in the field. So what we have started doing is basically, we call it rapid prototyping. So whenever we have a project or we want to invest in a new material, we'll build big panels and put them on a truck, and we'll ship them around to see what it does to them, and we'll put them through all the stresses we would put them to be able to do this. But on a smaller scale, like when we have dissimilar materials that are coming together, we'll do like smaller mock-ups and quickly test them out and get ahead of the minutia that can become big problems. But like we dive into the full detail, so we don't just do the mega panel testing, we also do these small skunk works to be able to understand, like, is the material compatible, where do we want to raise the red flag, where do we want to substitute your specification so that it works for prefab, and we bring that value to the table. And I think as we're educating people over time, people start, like, the light bulbs start going up, like when, all right, I have a prefab project, so I gotta, like, these are the unique conditions prefab's gonna introduce to my project, and people already start thinking about it, and that starts showing up in design. Which, to be honest, we're already seeing that with certain clients dictating that they want their building faster, they believe in prefab, they're even willing to pay a premium to make sure their buildings are designed and fabricated as a prefabricated pieces of components. There are some clients that have like full programs where we're building parts and pieces and they're sole sourced from us. And then we have clients that have their own program where they say, like, all right, this is the component, this is what I want to buy, and I'm going to go to all the prefabricators and make sure they can build this exact thing every time, irrespective of which one I pick. And that we're starting to see. So from a future of construction standpoint, I think the wheels are already turning, the momentum is being developed, We just need to achieve that critical mass where now the cost is no longer a conversation. The value proposition outweighs itself, and then the cost starts coming down because we're doing enough of these. There is enough competition out there that the cost automatically is driven down because competition breeds efficiencies.
Yeah, amazing. I think a big part of it is it's a market effort. Like it's the entire market. Just like you said, competition today is a blessing. If you see another prefabricator,
100%.
like we love it. You know, it's exciting. There's another one. Yeah, it's important because everyone burdens the cost of the early adoption or the challenges together, and you have who to learn from, and everyone's sharing like this journey to really transitioning the industry into a much more sustainable future. So yeah, it's totally exciting. Unfortunately, it looks like our podcast time is up, but I'm definitely looking forward to staying in touch because this is a lot of fun. Like Nihar, I really want to thank you for joining and sharing your insights. It's been a blast.
I appreciate it. It was a blast for me as well. And thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. Is there any way that we can, if people want to ask questions, they could reach out? What would you be the best way for them to do that?
Hit me up on LinkedIn, or you can use or you can flash my email nihart@digitalbuilding.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions that way as well.
Okay, amazing. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm very much looking forward either to a future podcast or just staying in touch.
All right. Thank you very much.